What's up guys, this is Eric Vasquez here with a brand new tutorial for you today from designcuts.com. In this tutorial we'll be creating a branded mockup for Botanical Fresh cosmetics in Photoshop. To do this we'll be using a small handful of elements from the Exceptional Textures and Patterns bundle featuring high quality resources from artists such as Little Valley Studio, Samolevsky Art, and Design Cuts. This all-new design bundle is a massive collection of textures and patterns that will help keep your design toolbox up to date and on trend. In addition to these design elements, we will also be creating a custom scene using product packaging mockups and other realistic items from the Cosmetic Packaging Branding Mockups by Mockup Zone, along with a free sans serif typeface from dafont.com. So, if you're all ready to get started, then fire up Photoshop and let's begin. To get started, we're going to go ahead and create a new document that's 13.5 inches wide by 11 inches tall with a resolution of 300, and you can set the color mode to RGB. Now I'm just going to go in here and give my file a name. I will call this Botanical Fresh Cosmetic Packaging Design. And then once you've done that, go ahead and click Create from the lower right hand corner. Now once you've done this, you can go ahead and bring over your layers palette here. And the first thing we're going to do is click on the adjustment layer icon and add a solid color adjustment layer. Now for the fill color, let's go ahead and use the hex value C0, 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 which is this nice light gray color. Go ahead and click OK. And now that we've added another layer, we can just go ahead, select this background layer, and simply get rid of it. Now come up to the File menu and choose Place Embedded. And we're going to start off by creating our background. So we want to navigate to the Freebies folder for this tutorial. And we'll come in here to Little Valley Studio and click on the background 27 green 30 by 40 JPEG and click Place. Now once you've brought in the image, we're going to hold the Control key and click on it and then choose Rotate 90 degrees clockwise. Now from here, move your cursor over any of the four corners of the bounding box and click and drag outwards while holding Alt, Option, and Shift on the keyboard to scale it up proportionally from the center. We want to make it large enough so that it extends beyond the canvas area, similar to what I've done here, and you guys can see where the bounding box is. And then once you've done that, just go ahead and press Return to apply the changes. Now that we've resized our background texture and we have it nice and large, we want to go ahead and reduce the opacity to 50% by pressing the number 5 on the keyboard. Okay, and that's just going to make it a little more subtle. But to push it even further, let's go down to the adjustment layer icon once again and choose solid color. And this time we're going to go ahead and fill this with a solid white. Then go ahead and click OK, and then press the number 2 on the keyboard to reduce this layer to 20% opacity. Now you can select the background if you want, maybe blow it up a little bit more, or move it around using a free transform, Command-Control-T on the keyboard, and just play around with it a little bit until you get something that you like. The idea here is that we want to keep the background nice and simple, but we want there to be a subtle texture. While it's not the focal point of the design, it certainly is nicer than looking at a plain white or gray background. And this background texture is just one of many beautifully hand-painted backgrounds that you guys will find in the complete bundle. Now, once you're happy with your background, select the top adjustment layer, hold the Shift key and select the bottom adjustment layer, press Command-Control-G to put these layers into a group folder, double-click the Group 1 text, and rename this layer Background. Now let's come up to the File menu and choose Open. And now what we're going to do is to begin bringing in some of our cosmetic packaging. So we're going to go back a little bit to the Freebies folder for the tutorial. And this time let's go into the Cosmetic Packaging Branding Mockups. And we'll start off by selecting the big white dispenser bottle PSD and choosing Open. Now once we've opened this up, I'm just going to move the tab over here to the right, grab this whole group folder and drop it into my main document. Come over to the file, press Command-Control-W to close the window, and now press Command-Control-T to select only the bottle, click and hold the Shift key, and then just slide it down a little bit so it's roughly in the center of the design. Now press Command-Control-O, which is the shortcut for Open, and now we'll come back, and this time let's go ahead and open up the roll-on PSD, which is this deodorant here, and then choose Open. Okay, we're going to do the same thing, move the tab to the side, and drag and drop this whole roll-on folder into the file. Press Command Control T to do a free transform. And here what we're looking to do is to place this on top of the big white dispenser bottle layer, but in the mock-up itself, we want to make it look like this is in front. So I'm moving it down slightly and towards the left side of the white dispenser bottle. Now come back to File, Open once again, and now we're going to bring in our third product, which is this little white cream box PSD, and choose Open. Okay, and then we're going to repeat that once again. Drag the whole folder in here, and then you can come over, use Command Control and the tilde key to go to your other tab, and then Command Control W to close it. Press Command Control T once you're back in here, and I'm going to make it so that this is on the same plane as the deodorant, but I'm going to place it on the right side instead of the left. Okay, so we have a nice little variety of cosmetic packaging here, and what we're going to do is we're going to be customizing the branding for each of these three labels. All right, so let's just tap this over a little bit to the left, just to bring it a little bit closer. And feel free to experiment with the size and placement of these if you want. There's no exact way to do it. This is just sort of the configuration that I've chosen to work with. And then once you have your elements in place, we're going to select the top one, hold Shift and select your third product down from the top, press Command Control G to put it into a group folder, double click the Group 1 text and put this into a folder called Products. Now let's go to File, Open once again, or use the shortcut Command O on the keyboard. And this time we're going to bring in the Big Cone PSD. Now with this first one, using this pine cone, what we want to do is drop it behind our products. Now once we've opened the pine cone, we're going to repeat this process of bringing the tab over to the side and dropping in the entire group folder. Okay, so let's just go ahead, click and drag to drop this in. Now I'm going to press Command Control and the left bracket to move this behind the products, and then press V on the keyboard to get my move tool, followed by Command Control T to do a free transform. Now I'm just going to click and drag this over towards the right side here, and then just hold the Shift key and scale it down a little bit, just so it's sort of peeking out behind the white dispenser bottle and just above that white cream box there. So now we have that pine cone in there. Let's go ahead and close that and press Command Control O on the keyboard to go to File, Open once again. Let's go ahead and open the white circle basket, choose it and click Open. Okay, and this time we'll bring this folder in and once again place it behind the products group folder. Okay, and then press Command Control T to do a free transform. And this time we're going to move it down behind the products on the left side. And maybe we can tap it up just a little bit there. Okay, and then once you're happy with that, press Command Control O one more time. And to tie this all together, we're going to bring in our leaves.psd file, just to add a little bit of greenery in here since it is botanicals that we're working with. And we're going to be pushing that theme even further once we get to the actual design of our labels. But first, we're going to bring this in here so that we can finish designing our actual scene that we want to work with here. All right, and then for the leaves, we want to sort of place these in front of the white circle basket, just behind and to the left of the deodorant. Okay, something about there looks pretty good. And now we can select the leaves, hold the Shift key and select the big cone, press Command Control G to put it into a group folder. Double click on that Group 1 text, and I'm just going to call this Front View Elements. Okay, and then be sure to save your file before moving on. Now to start, let's come in here to the Products folder, and we're going to choose the big white dispenser bottle, expand the folder by clicking that small arrow next to the name, and then we'll double click on this first smart object in here to come in and start customizing our labels. But before we do that, there's actually a second smart object that we have to click to go into. So double click this Replace Your Design smart object, and we'll be diving in one layer deeper. Now what's nice about these mockups is that they all have customizable caps that you guys can use, which is really unique. But you can also customize all of the colors and the labels down to the smallest details. So once you're inside this smart object, we're going to turn off the visibility of all these layers so that we can start fresh and create our own label. So to do that, come up to the File menu and choose Place Embedded. And what we're going to do is go back to the Freebies folder. And this time we're going to be working with one of these awesome macro texture images from Design Cuts, which is this exclusive pack. These really nice close-up images of a handful of different types of fruits and vegetables. and we're going to be working with this one today, which is a close-up shot of a cucumber. So once you've selected it, go ahead and click Place from the bottom right. Okay, and now let's go ahead and click and drag outwards from any of the four corners while holding the Alt, Option, and Shift keys, and then press Return once we've scaled it up a bit. Now press the letter U on the keyboard, and this is going to give us our rectangle shape tool. But if you hold the Shift key and then tap U a second time, you should now have the ellipse or the elliptical shape tool. Okay, so from here, go ahead and click on the stroke. I actually have a stroke color set here, but I want to get rid of that by choosing None. And then I'll click on the fill and just choose a solid black color. Now click and drag out while holding the Shift key to create a nice big circle. Well, it doesn't have to be too big. Okay, somewhere about there in the middle. And we're just going to go ahead and drop that on top of our cucumber texture. Alright, but we're going to move that layer down one spot so that it's just below the image by pressing Command Control and the left bracket. And now click on the fruit texture, hold the Control key and click on it, and choose Create Clipping Mask. Okay, and what that's going to do is make it so you can only see the texture inside of this ellipse. Now from here you can go ahead and get rid of all these other layers at the bottom here that we no longer need. Okay, now I'm going to select both of these layers, press Command Control G to put it into a folder, double click the Group 1 text and just call this Logo. And from here we're going to go ahead and create another new layer on top. Press D to reset your default colors of black and white if you don't have black as your foreground color already. And then press T to get your type tool. Now I'm just going to click my cursor once here and type the letter B. Okay, now let's go ahead and open up our character panel, which if you guys don't have it, you can access it by going to the window menu and choosing character. There's no specific font that you have to use for this. Any kind of bold sans serif font will do. But for this, I'm going to be using a font called DIN Alternate, and I'm going to make it about 681 point size, so it's nice and big. Oops. All right, I meant to do that for the size here, 681. And for now, I'll just be using DIN Alternate Bold. But again, you guys can use any sans serif typeface here from Helvetica, Futura, Gotham, Avenir, anything that's just simple and clean and easy to read. All right, now I'm just going to move this down a little bit. Press Command Control J on the keyboard to duplicate that letter, then Command Control T to do a free transform. Click, hold the Shift key and slide it over to the right, and then press Enter on the keyboard. Now click and highlight that letter and change it to the letter F. Okay, and I'm just going to move it over so it's a little bit closer to the B. And now I'm going to select the B, press Command Control T to do a free transform, hold the Control key, click on the letter, and choose Flip Horizontal to flip it the opposite way. And then press Return on the keyboard, and now just tap it over a bit. Okay, so now we have this B and this F here, and I'm just going to try and place it roughly in the center of the circle. And with both of these letters selected at the same time, I'm actually going to make them a little bit smaller and drag inwards from any of the four corners of the bounding box while holding Alt, Option, and Shift to scale it down proportionally from the center. That's looking pretty good. We just want to make sure that we have most of our letters inside of the circle. All right, and try to get it roughly in the center if you can. You can eyeball it, it doesn't have to be exact. All right, now what we're going to do is hold the Command Control key and the Shift key together and click on each of the layer thumbnails. So click on each of these uppercase T's here on the layer to activate a selection around both of the letters at the same time. Now, once you've done that, come up to the Select menu and choose Inverse, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Command-Shift-I. Now, once you've done that, select the logo folder and click on Add Layer Mask from the bottom. And you'll now see that your letters have been knocked out of that shape. But I want this F to come in a little bit closer to the center here, so we can just fix that manually. So press M on the keyboard to get your rectangular marquee tool, and then click and drag a selection somewhere about here. A small square should do. And then press X on the keyboard so that you have a solid white foreground color. Now from here you can press Alt, Option, and Delete, and that's going to fill the mask with white and reveal some more of that texture in the background. Okay, now we can just zoom out a bit there. And if you want, now you can come inside of this logo folder, press Command Control T to do a free transform, And you can pretty much move this around and scale it however you like. Okay, so something like that could be cool. All right, and now let's take that whole folder, press Command Control T, and I'm just going to move it up a bit. Now create another new layer, press T to get your type tool, click down here on the canvas, and we're going to add some more text. But before we do, let's just go ahead and change the size first to about 78 point. Okay, and now we're going to type out the words Botanical Fresh, and then press Command Control A to select all, and change the tracking setting here in the character panel from 150 to 90. Okay, click on the color, and we can change this to a dark gray, such as 636363. Now, let's go ahead and change the font here. So this time, I'm going to be using a free typeface called Kiona, which you guys can download for free from dafont.com. Now, there's a link for this font in the written portion of the tutorial, so be sure to go ahead and check that out to download it so you can follow along. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be this exact font, but this is just the one that I am using here, and it is a free font. It's pretty nice. Okay, now the only thing about this font is that it's pretty light. There's no bold style here. So what we're going to do is manually make it bolder. So double click on that type layer to bring up your layer styles and check off the stroke option here. Now we're going to add a stroke with 2 pixels set to the outside. And then for the color, we're going to use that same color that we used for our fill, 636363. Go ahead and click OK twice to apply the changes, and you'll see that you now have a nice bold font. Alright, so I'm just going to make sure that it's centered. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is just click to move this tab to the side, maybe minimize it a little by pressing Command Control and the minus key. Okay, and I'm going to grab each of my 3 other tabs here, move my character panel, and now what I'm going to do is select my label design and press Command Control S on the keyboard to save it. Now, once it's done saving, you'll see that it automatically pops up here on your mockup, which looks really nice. But now that I see that in real time, I'm thinking that maybe I should stack the text instead, just so I can make use of some of that long vertical height that we have there. So now I can just come back into my label design here, click my type tool between the 2 words, Botanical and Fresh, and remove that space, and then press Return on the keyboard to add a new line break here. Okay, and if we want to, we can actually click inside, press Command Control A to select all the type, and now we can come over to our character panel and maybe add some height here. So I'll just use the keyboard shortcut, which is the Alt Option key and the down arrow. But for some reason it jumped all the way to about 800, which is way too much. So let's just try and do this manually. I'll type in 60, okay, and then I'm just going to hold down the Alt Option key and tap the down arrow to add a bit of space here between the 2 words. Alright, so somewhere around 90 looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and press Command Control S to save that once again. And just like that, you should see your update right here, your updated mockup. Now, I want to move this up a little bit, so come back to the design, select both of those layers, and just hold down the Shift key and tap up to move it a little bit further up. Okay, somewhere about there looks pretty good. Now we can go ahead and just push this over to the side, because we will be using that again in just a few moments. Alright, so I'm just going to dock some of my panels here. And let's go ahead and just close any other windows that we have open that we may not need. Alright, but now we can go ahead and save this mockup, and we'll see that updated automatically in our main file here. Okay, so now you can see that we have our beautiful, fresh looking label applied to the white dispenser bottle. So let's go ahead now and open up the roll-on folder and double click this smart object to open it up. And once again, we have to go 1 layer deeper, so double click the layer that says replace your design. Okay, and now let's just go ahead and close this white dispenser bottle here, but we want to leave the actual label smart object open. Okay, so all we're going to do here is turn off these layers, or you can just get rid of them, and we're going to come over to the label that we've already created. You should have a text layer and your logo folder. Click and drag them over into this empty smart object. Not empty, but the one that we just turned those layers off in. Okay, and we're just going to now grab both of these and try to center them as best we can and move them up a bit. Okay, and then we can just keep this over here. Press Command Control S so that we can save it and see how it looks on the deodorant. All right, and that looks pretty good, but I actually need to move it down this time, I think. I might have placed it a little bit too high. All right, so what's beautiful about this is that you can literally just make these changes on the fly and press Command Control S and see it update automatically. All right, but again, I'm going to come into the logo folder here, select the cucumber texture and press Command Control T to do a free transform. And let's just move it around a little bit just to make it a little bit different looking so that it doesn't look like the exact same texture and position for every single item in our mockup. All right, and then I'll press Command Control S once again just to see how that looks. And it's sort of, a little bit trial and error here. But I encourage you guys to just experiment with this until you get something you like. So in this case, I'm going to scale it up a little bit, maybe place it down towards the bottom here. Okay, and we can try maybe something like this. It's just sort of about experimenting here. So let's try that. I mean, it's a little bit different. That dark green part is still centered in between the two letters because that seems to provide a nice bit of contrast. Now I'll go ahead and close this window, save this mockup. Okay, and then we should see that update here in our main file, just like that. Now, just looking at it, I'm wondering if maybe it should be just a touch smaller also. So let's go ahead and select that whole folder and the text, press Command Control T and then Command Control 0 in case you can't see the whole bounding box. And we'll drag this inwards a little bit while holding the Alt, Option, and Shift keys to scale it down just a bit. All right, we'll place it back in the center here and press Return on the keyboard to apply the changes. And then go ahead and save it once again to see how that looks. Now we don't want to make it too small, but we also don't want it to take over the entire label here. So I think somewhere in between where we had it before and where it is currently. All right, tap it down. And this is one of the nice things about using mockups is seeing just how easy it is to really make these changes on the fly. All right, that looks good. So now let's go ahead and save this. And just like that, it has updated. So go ahead and close that roll-on mockup. Come back to your main file here, and you can see we have made some nice progress. So lastly, let's go into our little white cream box here, this little lotion tub, and double-click the smart object to go inside. And you'll see that in this file, we actually have some layers that look a little bit different. All right, so let's grab our layers palette and just move it over here. And so the first thing I want to do is double-click on this color fill adjustment layer, so that we can change the color of the lid. So double click that layer. And now I'm going to type in the hex value 73823D, which is this nice sort of olivey green color. Okay, and then once you've done that, we can go inside of this smart object here that says replace your design. Okay, go ahead and turn those two layers off. And I'm just going to make this main mockup pretty small in the corner here. All right, and I'm going to bring this other label design sort of to the front and center. All right, and I'm going to grab the text layer and the group folder and drag them both in here. And now once you've done that, we can go ahead and close that label because this is our third product that we're going to be mocking up. All right, and then let's go ahead and maybe shrink this down a bit, just the logo folder I'm talking about. All right, and drag inwards from any of the four corners of the bounding box while holding Alt, Option, and Shift. All right, and I just want to make this a little bit smaller so it doesn't get cut off and place it roughly in the center of the design. Now I'll turn the text layer back on. It was already on, but I can't see it, and press Command Control T, and that will reveal its placement so that we can put it over here to the right. All right, maybe make it a little bit smaller, somewhere about there. Now from here, I'm going to select this logo folder, press Command Control J to duplicate it, hold the Control key, click on the layer mask, and choose Delete Layer Mask. So now you're just going to have that without the logo knocked out. Come inside that logo copy folder, hold the Control key, and click on the Fruit and Vegetables 13 texture, and then choose Release Clipping Mask. And that's going to just reveal the entire texture. So press Command Control T to do a free transform, and then click and drag outwards while holding Alt, Option, and Shift so that you can scale it up and make it fill the entire width of this window. All right, and then we'll go ahead and place this folder above our text. All right, select the folder, press Command Control and the right bracket on the keyboard so that this texture is on top of everything. Now come up to the File menu and choose Place Embedded. And we're going to go ahead and bring in our last freebie here that we're going to be working with. And for this, we'll be using a beautiful organic texture from Samolevsky Art. All right, Organic Pattern 1. Go ahead and choose Place. And that's just going to bring it into our document. Now, it'll most likely drop it right in the middle, so we're just going to hold the Shift key and slide it over all the way to the left. Press Return to apply the changes, and then Command-Control-J to duplicate it. Press Command-Control-T to do a free transform. Click and then hold the Shift key and just drag it over here to the right. Press Return, and just make sure that it lines up so that it looks like one long seamless pattern. Now go ahead and grab both of those layers and press Command-Control-J to duplicate them again. Press Command-Control-T and do the same thing. Click, hold the Shift key, slide it over to the right so that you can begin to fill out this whole window here, this whole canvas. All right, and then I think one more copy should do it. So click, hold the Shift key, slide it all the way over, and that's looking pretty good. So this is a nice, interesting looking texture. And we're just going to add this to this packaging here just to mix it up and give a bit of product variety. All right, so select the top copy, hold the Shift key, and select your first copy of the organic pattern, and then press Command-Control-E on the keyboard to merge them together. Hold the Command-Control key and click on the layer thumbnail icon here to make a selection, and that's going to select all of the black from this pattern. Now turn the visibility of this layer off. Okay, and then go into the logo copy folder, select the Fruit and Vegetables 13 layer, and click on the Add Layer Mask icon. Okay, so now you can only see the texture inside of that pattern. Now, what I want to do is take this ellipse and move it outside of the logo copy folder so that it's sitting on top. Press the number 5 to reduce the opacity to 50%. Press Command-Control-T to do a free transform. And now hold the Alt Option and Shift key to scale this circle up a bit proportionally so that it extends outside of our circular logo lockup. Okay, and we want to try to center it here. And then once you've done that, hold the Command-Control key, click on the layer thumbnail icon for this ellipse layer, and then turn the visibility of that layer off. Select the logo copy folder, press Command-Control-Shift-I to invert the selection, and now click on the Add Layer Mask icon once again. And now you'll have that area knocked out of the pattern. And then the last thing we want to do here is select our text, the Botanical Fresh text layer, press the letter M on the keyboard to get your rectangle tool, and we're just going to freehand this one by moving a little bit above and to the left of the first line of text here, clicking and dragging out a long rectangle that extends beyond the end of the word. Okay, and then hold the Shift key and do the same thing for the second line so that you'll end up with having one sort of selection here. It's one block, sort of a wide T shape. And then select the layer mask attached to the logo copy folder. Make sure that you have a solid black foreground color, and then press Alt, Option, and Delete. So now you've knocked that out as well. All right, and from here, let's go ahead and press Command-Control-S to save this, and we'll see it update in our mockup here. So that looks really nice. All right, it looks sort of reflective. It adds a nice bit of geometry and variety to our mockup. So now let's go ahead and come back into the label for a moment here, and we can come into the main logo folder, select the fruits and vegetable texture, and again we can try to experiment maybe with the placement or positioning of the texture inside, just a little bit to add a little more variety and see how that looks. All right, cool. Now let's go ahead and close that window, and we'll save this window as well. And then once it's finished saving, press Command-Control-W to close the window. Come back up into your main mockup here and have a look at your beautiful cosmetic packaging mockup. Now we can select both of these folders and maybe move them up just a touch so that they're roughly in the center of the design. And overall, that's looking really, really nice. And that about does it for our Botanical Fresh cosmetic packaging design in Photoshop. Today we've created a custom scene using some freebies courtesy of Mockup Zone with a beautiful cosmetic packaging product from the Design Cuts Marketplace. In addition to that, we've been using some really nice textures and patterns from the Exceptional Textures and Patterns bundle, which there's still plenty of time for you guys to go check out. It's really a great variety of high quality resources that you guys will be able to use to speed up your workflow and step up your design game instantly. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this tutorial and hopefully learned a few new tips and tricks along the way. As always, we would love to see what you guys do with these elements and these techniques in your own work, so please go ahead and share that with us. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Eric Vasquez, and we'll see you next time.